Now you have the word, and we are eager to listen to what you make of this. Welcome.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for the invitation. I hope you can see my screen. Okay, so
yes, we see the screen.
Okay. I'm not here with my capacity as a chairman of the WWF Greece, but I cannot say that I'm not influenced in my work. So I'm going to talk as a scholar, not as a as the chairman. So the idea is to present how can some examples of innovations that have occurred in Greece, in our case, but we think that these are quite similar in other cases. Now, what is the main problem that we found out that there is? When we're talking about the use of innovation, the innovation as a tool for resilience, there's always a problem. First of all, we're talking in all cases, authorities are not exactly the ones who are going to support innovation wholeheartedly, because as we all know, authorities, one of the main fears they have is the fear of failure. They're afraid to fail. And innovation in many cases is connected, is intrinsically connected with failure. So this is not something that they would like to support very much. The same thing stands for big organizations, big, let's say, cooperatives, established organizations, even as big environmental organizations. They are afraid to fail. So they're reluctant to accept innovation in many cases. Usually what the authorities and all the institutional actors are saying is stick to the usual and easy things that farmers are going to accept easily. At the same time, the banking system has been always extremely cautious with innovative ideas. They were not willing to risk in things like that, and this was quite. We saw that it was aggravated during the crisis. Risk aversion is the first thing that you can see when we have economic crises like the ones that we passed through and we still pass through in Greece. So although I'm going to present some Greek cases, we think that this is something that can be applied to many cases. So the main priority during a crisis is to ensure economic viability in the short term, like there is no the day after tomorrow, only tomorrow, not to say only today. So that means that even research activities and advice are aiming during these times towards competitiveness in the sense of securing market access, not risking things. However, during this crisis in Greece, we saw some new things, some new examples that have risen. Collective initiatives from rural areas in different sectors and regions that had some common characteristics. First of all, they were reactive. They were driven by negative factors. That means either the model of subsidy maximizing farming could not be followed because there were some policy changes due to external pressures, or just policy changes, or they were not. It was not possible for them to use these policy measures because they didn't have the land, they didn't have the entitlements, they didn't have the right, they couldn't get because they couldn't enter this market. This is one thing. The other factor is that in some cases, the market strategy reached its limits. Let's say there are some examples where they were focusing on a specific, very competitive product, but then this market was saturated, so they couldn't go on that product. So they had to do something to change. Now, why do we argue that this is a transformative change? Why do we say that this is important? Why this is not a normal change of strategy or tactic in order to survive? Because this is what we had here during all these years was a process of delegitimization of cooperatives. Cooperatives was playing a very small role in competitive sectors. They were in the market-oriented sectors. They had a small and diminishing role. But in these cases, we had they were collective initiatives. They were bottom-up initiatives, not using the forms of cooperatives like they used to be, but starting new ways of organizing, bottom-up initiatives. That's why we say it's a transformative change, because they try to overcome this delegitimization problem of cooperatives. So they had common characteristics, they're successful, and that's why we're focusing on them. First of all, they're all market-oriented. They had an extrovert character. They were trying to expand their markets. They were trying to go abroad to try to export. This is one thing. They didn't have, their main goal was not to get more subsidies, but it was to get the market. This is one thing. In order to do that, they weren't focusing on competitiveness through lower prices. They were focusing on quality, food safety, and environmental performance. The other thing that they all had in common is that they didn't want to limit themselves in selling together in the marketing part, but they tried to organize, control, and monitor the production process, the primary production process, which was, again, something that was innovative in these cases. And in these efforts, they had two common characteristics also. They were actively seeking linkages to research and advisory. This is one thing. They were asking themselves to link their organizations to their groups to research and advisory. And the second thing that was very important is that they considered themselves that farmer awareness and training was an essential part of their strategy in order to get successful. These two characteristics are the ones that are making them interesting for us. As far as the strategies, they didn't want to rely on public support to start collaboration for innovation. They weren't asking for let's say, state or public support in order to start the innovation, to start the collaboration. They started by themselves. The other thing is that they tried to use existing quality standards and environmental friendly practices in order to maintain and gain markets, in order to meet consumer expectations. They didn't apply for subsidies. They only apply for subsidies and public support when their effort was already established, when they wanted, in order to, let's say, fortify their efforts, that they have themselves started. So some examples in order to understand what we're referring to. And we're going to place some more emphasis on the role of research and advice on that. Climate change, the issue of climate change. What they all have, I mean, the mainstream proposal for adaptation to climate change, what it is you can go on with your business as usual, and the only thing that you have to do is insure your produce for negative impacts and damages. So if you know that you're going to have a problem of less production, just pay an insurance. You keep on doing the same things as you used to do, and you insure yourself from any losses, damages, and that's it. This is not what they chose. They chose resilience, active resilience. They chose to try to use varieties and races that are resistant to drought, that they can survive the lack or less irrigation water, try to use different varieties. They try to adapt practices to reduce their needs in terms of water, reduce evapotranspiration, use methods that would reduce their needs. So they were active to do that. But in order to do that, they recognized and they found out that the only way is to go to research and advisory and ask for solutions for that. What are the varieties that they could use? It's not easy. And what are the new methods that they can use? Let's say for those familiar with that, in order to reduce evapotranspiration, they would use another type of pruning in order to reduce the leaves. This is one thing. Circular farming, that means in order to increase the organic matter of their soils, in order to improve their soil quality, to reduce the use of synthetic fertilizers, and to increase carbon sequestration. You can get many things by increasing organic matter. What was the solution they were given? Use compost, buy some organic fertilizers. No, what they try to do is to incorporate the residues, to use the idea of circular economy in their field. Go back and try to use all the pruning material that was left and all the residues, the stub that was thrown away. They had phytosanitary issues because sometimes they can create problems, phytosanitary problems. This is where they use the support of science, of research, and of advisory in order to try to compost and use new techniques, new innovative techniques of how to use them. So in order to do what they wanted to do, they were planning to do, they needed research, and they asked for it. And then the third example is plant protection. What is the mainstream proposal? Well, precision agriculture. We all know it. It's not something that it doesn't work. It works, but in many cases it needs a lot of prerequisites. Let's say it cannot be applied easily in small scale agriculture, as we have in Greece and in many other places. Very small parcels, land parcels, it's not very easy to use these methods. They need more space, and they need a lot of investment, which is not very easy for small farmers to do. So their approach, use nature-based solutions, biological control. They are more adaptable to their situation, to their small situation, to their small scale farming. And someone would argue, why do they need research for that? Well, because they themselves know much better that there are new enemies, new insects, new problems that they don't have the know-how. Traditional know-how is not very useful in these cases. That means when you want to use nature-based solutions, they are very knowledge-intensive methods. So they needed advice, they needed research for that. They needed to try to overcome these problems. Another problem is that they realized, everybody has realized, that there is a big problem of increased resistance to conventional plant protection products. There is a very big problem of new diseases that the conventional plant protection products cannot face. So they need this research, and this is what they have been asking for, adapted to their needs. That's all I had to say.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I